Okay, here we go. Perfect. So I'll start. I'm Sara Petti. I'm the community manager of Frictionless Data. I've been in this role for over a year now, and I'm really looking forward to hear the presentation today. I'll pick someone else, maybe Laura, you can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Laura Rubel. I'm at Stanford University Libraries on the team that works with the digital repository there. I'm relatively new there, and I'm embarrassed, this is the first call I've been to for the Frictionless Data project, but I'm excited to be catching up on what you all are doing and hear more about the work that Ed and Ilya have been doing.
Great, thanks, Laura. Do you want to pick someone else?
How about Aditya?
I don't know if Aditya can actually speak because she's using a bot. So maybe Lorena, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lorena. I'm the community manager for Web Recorder, here to support Ed and Ilya, and I'll be putting any links in the chat that they happen to mention. And with that, I'll let Ilya introduce himself.
Thanks, Lorena. Hi, I'm Ilya. I'm the lead developer of the Web Recorder project. And I'm here to talk about how we've been using frictionless data as part of the waxy format. I think I actually attended a previous meeting. I think it was about a year ago. I'm not actually sure exactly what date that was, but and so we're excited to kind of give an update on how we're basing our work off of the frictionless data package standard. And I'll pass it on to my colleague Ed.
Hi, I'm Ed. I actually work with Laura at Stanford University Libraries, and I work with Ilya on the Web Recorder project. So it's nice to have them both parts of my work life represented here. I've been, I guess for the context of this call, I've been sort of helping Ilya document the current use of data packages for a specification that I guess we're going to talk about. Thanks for having us, because we've been talking about data packages a little bit in our own meetings, and we wanted to kind of share some of the ideas a little bit broader. And it's actually nice that it's a small group, I think, because I think it'll lend itself to conversation a little bit better, maybe. So I'll pass it to Edgar.
I'm Edgar. I'm a developer from Open Knowledge Foundation, and I'm helping Frictionless Data and already helping some of the Frictionless Data API, and helping Evgeny work in the application, and I participate in some of the meetings before. That's it.
Yes, thanks, Edgar. Okay, well, I think we did the round. We're a very small group today, but maybe it's better to have a conversation. Ilya and Ed, up to you now.
Sure, thanks, Sarah. So we're happy to kind of share our work on the waxy format. I think last time we presented, I think we were just starting out. And I think since then we've gotten a small grant to kind of help standardize the format, and kind of the idea behind the format is to create a portable format for storing web archive data, and we're actually in the process of trying to figure out how it can be standardized. And then we'll also talk about the format itself, and then also what we've been doing in exploring the idea of signing waxy files. I think maybe I'll pass it on to my colleague Ed to start off, kind of a brief intro of the format, and then I'll talk more about the signing part.
Okay, yeah, that works, Ilya. So I thought I would just briefly show you like creating one of these data packages and then opening it up and looking at it. And then just feel free to interrupt me as I'm going if you have a question. So let me share my screen here. And hopefully you can see my screen okay.
Yes.
Great. And I think I've got another browser window here somewhere. So I don't know, there's not many people on the call, but like you probably have seen, I know many of you on the call have seen the Internet Archive before, right? But I'm curious, Edgar, are you familiar with this already?
Yes.
Yeah, and so like a lot of people know about the Internet Archive, right? Because they try to archive the entire web, and there are also web archiving programs at different institutions around the world, right? That, like for example, the British Library, you know, archive parts of the UK domain, and Iceland and France, like lots of countries have programs where they try to archive parts of the web, and so it is being done, and one of the features on the Internet Archive website is that, you know, you can go and look at you know, what a website looked like at a particular time, or you can, if you want, you know, choose to archive something, and so like as an example, like, you know, we can go to the Frictionless page, right? Copy and paste here, and then paste that into this page, this form here. And then what happens is you can say save page, and then Internet Archive will, in their infrastructure, they'll go and they'll fetch that page, right? And then they'll save it to their own storage, and then they'll present it to you here, right? And then you can go back and then look at like what that page looked like at a particular point in time. I'm mentioning this here, I don't know, was that new to anybody? Edgar, like, did you know you could do that already? Or sorry to pick on you, but
Yeah.
yeah, so this is fairly well known, right? And the thing that the Web Recorder project really is predicated on is this idea that not only do like people need to be able to use the Internet Archive to do this, and also for, you know, national libraries and different organizations to archive the web, but individuals also need to have tools to create their own web archives, and not necessarily public ones, right? So when you create an archive like this on the Internet Archive, it's archiving it for anyone, which is great, you know, for publishing and you know, public web archives. But if you want to create your own archive, perhaps one that's not public, or perhaps one that, you know, you can keep yourself and share it with other people that you want to share it with, the Internet Archive is not going to help you do that. Yeah, so I guess it created a snapshot here, and then we can kind of look at it. So, and, you know, apologies to Lorena and Ilya, they present this all the time, a lot better than I'm going to right now. But the Web Recorder project has a set of tools that it's developed over time. I'm really just gonna talk about one of them right now, which is this one called Archive Web Page. Actually, I may talk about this replay web page one in a moment. But Archive Web Page looks very similar, like in its functionality to, let me go to it. So it's a little application, right? Running at archiveweb.page, right? So there is a website for this, but it's actually a client-side application that just runs in your browser. It doesn't, you can actually download a desktop version of it if you want to just run it locally on your computer, but yeah, it's all running in the client. And what you can do once you have Archive Web Page running is do a very similar process, right? Of, actually, where did it go? Sorry, I'm lost because Zoom seems to be covering up part of my page here. Hold on a second. So once you have this desktop or archive web page, you can decide to like create an archive of some part of the web. So let's say I'll go back to the frictionless data web page. With the extension installed in your browser, you can I'm going to create a new archive, right? And I'll just call it frictionless, or let's say I'm creating an archive of Open Knowledge Foundation pages or something. And I can start recording, right? So I can start this process of recording.
Try opening it in a new tab.
Oh, did I?
Occasionally that might happen if you have multiple extensions running or
Oh, I might, yeah, actually, I guess because I'm on the page here, would that maybe interfere with it, or?
Yeah, just try the new tab and see if that works. And if not, I could also demo it on my end.
Yeah, I did
No
have
worries.
this tab there. Okay, so let me go back to the frictionless page.
Thanks for doing a full demo to provide that background.
Yeah, it's always a risk, especially with me, because I didn't actually really prepare for doing.
I thought you were just going to start with the waxy format, but this is a good background to kind of prepare for that, so it can.
Yeah, I wanted to show like creating it.
And so I keep pointing to me because that sort of when Ed created that archive and into archive, they have all of the data. Yeah, I think it might be if you have other extensions running, Chrome has made it more difficult to. Let me try it on my end.
Okay, yeah. Why don't you try real quick?
Yeah. So let me share my screen here.
There's no archive web extension for Firefox? Sorry, I was trying
not at this time because it's sort of a different API, but we would like to have an extension for it, but we just haven't had time to. So I'll create a new. So let's see. And yeah, so basically the idea is sort of when you archive with archive web page extension, the data. So yes, I'll mute the video. Yeah, so essentially as the page loads, everything on the page is being archived, including all the videos. So if there's a video on the page, it'll autoplay it specifically so that it can be archived as well. And it's we can actually see it's already up to 70 megabytes, probably because of the video. So I will go ahead and stop that, and then I'll click on Browse Archive. Yeah, and so now I'm actually viewing the archive version, and I can download this file and have all of the data. So this view is similar to.
Yeah, let me just interject there, Ilya,
Sure.
because like it is kind of like, so the data is local on your computer at this point, even before you download it, right? So because it's in the browser.
Yes.
So the downloading, it's not actually it. You can think of the download not as so much as a download, because it's not actually getting it from the internet somewhere. It's already present on your computer, but it is packaging it up as a data package.
Right, exactly, yes. And so we have all of the, so right now this is sort of the kind of similar to the view that you get from the Internet Archive. We have sort of just the view of the page and then sort of the replayed view, but we don't know where the raw data actually is. So like with the example that Ed created in Internet Archive save page, that data becomes part of their huge archive, and it's not easy to get that data out. With this tool and kind of all of our tools, the idea is that users can essentially fully own all the data that they archived, and so and all of the metadata and kind of associated. So, for example, this single page here is part of the metadata. We could actually also, let's see if so there's actually a full text search, even though it's just a single page here. So you could actually also search on the page, and we can then go to the so we have this download option, and we can download the waxy format, and the waxy format is basically a data package, and it'll have all of the data there in a portable way. And so I downloaded this format. I can then go to our other tool, replay webpage, which is using, actually, it's based on the same infrastructure, and I can go to point to this file, and I can open it, and the frictionless data archive is here and loadable. I could also host this anywhere on the web, or essentially any web accessible storage will work. So an example I like, you could also embed this. So an example I like to use often is this page, which in this case it's hosted on Glitch. So it's basically same idea. I archived a tweet and a YouTube video here, and they're embedded as individual files, just using HTML, and it's pointing to the waxy format. And yeah, just a quick overview of what that actually looks like as far as the data.
The thing I was hoping to do is like lead us to that waxy file, because it's actually a zip file, right? Which we can sort of unzip.
Yeah,
look into.
Sure, I can do that. Yeah, let me move here, and I'll you could see. Are you able to? I think did I share my screen or my entire desktop?
We just see your browser at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let me reshare so I can quickly show that. So I'll quickly, so now I'm showing you my terminal, and so this is the waxy file, and what that looks like is it's a zip file that is a data package, and one of the things that it has is, so it kind of has all of the regular, so it has, of course, the data package.json. That's sort of the kind of the main part that we're using, since all the other data here is custom. It's not a tabular data. It's all sort of custom web archive specific data, and that's what the waxy spec specifies. Sort of what are these other formats, and we have the actual raw HTML. The raw HTTP traffic is stored in the WARC format, which is included in the waxy. Then we also have a page list, and we have an index, and those are all formats that are specified in the spec. And if we look at the data package, that is sort of kind of the usual stuff. We're adding so the created date, some software metadata here, and so we're still kind of figuring out what some of these fields should be. That's kind of part of the current draft. And a new thing that we're adding that we also want to talk about is this data package digest, which is also still in development. So in this case, and the idea is that the data package digest includes a signature of everything that's in the data package. And so in this case, the signature is just, so in order to include a signature, we of course need the hash of the data package.json itself. And then this is sort of one approach. Since this was created in the browser, the signature is just, so it's basically using a key pair generated in the browser and a public key, which right now is not shared anywhere, but could be. And yeah, so that's kind of what this discussion was leading up to is, and again, all of this is kind of not specific to Waxy, so this could work with any data package. And yeah, that basically what we want to talk about is kind of, does this make sense generally for data packages? And what should the format for that be if it were to make sense? And kind of as a motivation for this, and there are many, of course, is that when you have web archives stored in the Internet Archive, you sort of trust them by virtue of them loading from their website. But if you can distribute these archives anywhere and let's say host them on Glitch like I did here, how do we, prove authenticity or trust that this is a real tweet or this is a real YouTube video, and that it wasn't just someone faking it? And that becomes more and more important in today's age of misinformation and war and so forth. Yeah, and so that's kind of what we want to talk about is, so if there was a standard approach to signing web archives, perhaps other data packages as well, what should that look like? Does that make sense at the frictionless data level? It certainly makes sense at the web archive level because we want to be able to authenticate this, but is this something that's more generally applicable to frictionless data? Yeah, and so maybe I can pause here and maybe take questions or start a discussion about this. Or if Ed, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, and I apologize, this is only my second data package, call. So I came last time, and it was a really good presentation, right, about how data packages were being used in Brazil, right, by the national government to publish data, right, and I think that as Ilya was just saying, data packages in a context like that, right, like where the publisher is a known entity, a government or a big organization like the Internet Archive, the authenticity of the package is kind of like I downloaded it from this website. I trust that, I trust that publisher, right? And I think the question that I hear Ilya asking, like at least in our calls that we've had, is as data packages circulate on the internet as things that people distribute, right, and create themselves, is there a need for documenting who created the package, and has it been changed since they said that they created it, and that's, we kind of looked at it really quickly, but that data package, the digest, the one that Ilya showed us really quickly, that had, it basically just had a checksum, for the manifest file, right, for the data package JSON, right? It really just had a fixity value for that, and then some information about how it was signed, but because there's that fixity value for the data package JSON, and then that data package JSON has the fixity values of all the files in the package, right? Just the fact that one fixity value is there in the signed in the signed one, it allows you to know, right, that nothing has been changed at least in all the data that is part of the package, right, the payload of the package. And it seemed like, we can easily just kind of document this in our own waxy specification, like that this is what we're doing. But it seemed like there might be an opportunity at within the frictionless community of like developing just a simple way of sort of documenting, what the package should look like to know that it hasn't been changed since it's been signed. But I should say though that I'm kind of glossing over, like, so this signed data portion of the package, right? I think there are some details there to work out, right? And
Yes,
maybe
yeah,
also some flexibility, because there might be different approaches to signing, right? That different,
right.
but perhaps that's yeah, like that might be a useful thing for the frictionless community to kind of talk about, like, and maybe there doesn't have to be total agreement about how that signing, the mechanics of it exactly work, but yeah, but if there could be, that would be awesome, but at least some place where to record this kind of thing. And it made me think about the extension mechanism. So I think it's great how you guys design frictionless to be extensible in different ways, right? That's been part of its design, and it seems like this might be like one of those things where it could be extended in a particular way.
Yeah, and I'm just sharing my screen here so we have a separate document that's kind of outside the main waxy specification, and that's mostly because we're not quite sure if that, as we're trying to standardize this, we're trying to figure out where everything should go, and sort of the signing right now is separate. Maybe this will be moved into frictionless data itself if there is interest in that, or maybe there'll be a separate standard that we'll propose later, but this is kind of a little bit still in the process of being hashed out. But yeah, basically the main idea is that we add a file that has the hash of the data package.json. This is just a kind of a rough proposal that has been implemented, and that most of the actual kind of complexity is what the signed data contains. And there, yeah, as I'd mentioned, that there could be multiple versions of this, and one is sort of just to cover it very quickly, one is kind of like the anonymous signature, where there's just a signature and a public key that's involved, and then that's kind of like for where the identity isn't necessarily known or included in the package itself. Then we've been exploring other approaches that are tied to ownership of a specific domain. So for example, if you own, signing that webrecorder.net as the domain, you could use the same key that you generate the SSL cert to also sign the waxy data package. And then that way it's also tied to the kind of the certificate transparency logs that are out there. And then they also add a signed timestamp. So that's also kind of being hashed out right now. That this is a bit more complicated, but basically relies on the trust of a trusted third party and the existing SSL certificate infrastructure. Of course, there can be other approaches. People have definitely suggested various blockchain-based approaches to signing, which could be used. We haven't specified that, but yeah. So that's I guess there's several questions. So one of the questions would be, does including this in frictionless data package make sense at all? And then a secondary question would be, what should the format look like, and how much of it should be specified versus left to different implementations? Yeah, so I think that's kind of where we're at with this.
Yeah, and one thing we had talked about doing but haven't done is like entering like an issue ticket into the into the frictionless GitHub, just saying like, here's an idea, and then if there's interest, we could submit like a pull request for like an extension to add. But yeah, our hope for this call was just to see if there was any interest at all, or if it maybe seemed like it didn't fit, and then we would not do that and just document it in other places.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that more community would be there also to sort of like test and have a sense of like how this was interesting for other people and other projects as well. I think that it could definitely be something that could be in the project. I think it could be interesting for some people, definitely. And as frictionless, as you said, is sort of like modular. There's something that can be implemented in that way for sure. I'm curious to see if Edgar has anything to add to that.
Yeah, I have some question. What regarding this? I might be careful. The signature of the data package, I think, is a good idea, and it would be nice to have. I'm not sure if in the frictionless data package there is a standard for doing that, signing, and it would be nice, like, to promote this discussion and starting. Yeah, I think it's something important. It would be nice to have a standard way to sign in using like public key, how you did it. I have a question about the idea in this web archive that you are generating using your extension. Right now, you said that you use the private key that you generate in the browser. But
Yes.
would it not make more sense for me when I archive a website, I assure that I didn't change it what I archived. Like if the website had a public key that you can use to sign, but I didn't know that you didn't change it. Okay, this was the website yesterday, but
so currently unfortunately that's not possible with current. So we did look at SSL, like if there's anything that you could do with SSL, but unfortunately SSL is basically symmetric encryption. So both parties have or the actual data is transmitted with a signed with a symmetric key, as I understand it. So both parties. So there's not a way to prove that that just from the website itself. I think there are proposals of either updating SSL or TLS really just to be able to do that. And there's other proposals for kind of changing how the data is served so that it can be signed by the website. So as of right now, there isn't really a way to do that, unfortunately, from the website itself, unless the website implements some custom infrastructure for that. And the idea of this is that it can work for any website, including HTTP websites that don't even have TLS at all. And so, yeah, with that, it becomes basically you have to trust the client is what it comes down to. Is that and that's why it's kind of in a way a tricky problem, because you have to trust the whoever's creating the web archive, and so at least this way you could attribute that trust to a specific identity. You could say that it was created by whoever owns this public key, and then you have to trust them, which is kind of outside the scope of this right now. The other approach is that you have kind of a third party trust where it's running on a third party system, and you trust that system, and it signs it. But that's kind of where we're at, I think, because of how the web works.
Yeah.
Yep.
And another question: are you talking with Internet Archive about this specification? Are they interested on having that?
We have talked to them about it. I think their goal is to kind of build the biggest archive in the world, which they have, and keep updating it. So, but I think that they do have use cases where people want to get data out of, and so this format could definitely be useful if someone wants to, for example, download a small portion of a few pages and then have it be signed, for example, by Internet Archive. But we've had various conversations with them. Not right now, we're kind of focusing on the spec itself, but this could be this could be useful for moving data out of archives and making it more portable and distributed. But their main use case is slightly different in that they, in their case, that they want the trust to be determined based on things loading from their website. Whereas with this format, the idea is that it's not tied to any one website, it's tied to the package itself, which can be hosted anywhere.
And how do you deal with, like, if you are in a website that do a lot of requests to maybe external server API requests? Did you archive the answers?
Yes, but yeah, so like, for example, I mean, this is all in the case of so yeah, the tools have been built to be able to archive dynamic content. So like this works by archiving the Twitter API, and this works by archiving the YouTube API, and kind of replaying that back. I mean, that's sort of part of the. So basically, it's the way this works is it's kind of like a small Wayback Machine that runs in the browser, reading data from the data package, which is the waxy, and yeah, and that's kind of how. Yeah, there's. We could probably have more documentation on how the whole system works, but for now, we just wanted to kind of focus on the actual data store. Yeah, and the way that it works is that there's a service worker and it replays the URLs and you know, if you look at the network traffic, the way that it works is that it makes the browser think that it's loading from YouTube, where it's actually loading from a data package that's the waxy that's stored in the browser using a service worker. And yeah, and this is kind of, yeah, and so the idea is that users can still have the raw data, which is stored in that package, whereas with larger archives like Internet Archive, it's much harder to, for example, download the data for a single page and put it somewhere, because it becomes part of like that example that Ed made earlier, that becomes accessible on the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine. But if you want to just take that archive and store it somewhere else, or have a local copy of it, there's not an easy way to do that because it's sort of part of their infrastructure. Yeah, and so this is kind of a slightly different approach to allow people to have their own archives and to store this into existing. So in this case, where these files are stored on I think on DigitalOcean, this can be stored in S3. Also works with IPFS or institutional repositories. So yeah, I mean that's kind of the idea, is that the format itself is a static format, but it allows you to replay highly dynamic websites.
Yeah, I pasted a URL to some of the use cases that we've been collecting, and yeah, it is. I think these are good questions you asked, Edgar. You know, about what's going on in the browser, and like what is it recording, what isn't, and the trust around what's happening. And I think that the one thing that you'll see in the use cases is, like Ilya was just stressing, the importance of making the data portable, and I think that that's something that Data Package has really done such a good job of building a community and conversation around, packaging up data so that it can be reused in different contexts. And that's really what the Web Recorder project is trying to do with Web Archive data. At the moment, Web Archive data really gets kind of locked into these platforms, infrastructures, right, that are software and data combined. And it's very difficult to take some of that data and move it into a different system or context. So that's something that the waxy specification itself is trying to address, is making the Web Archive data portable, And so these use cases are largely like around that idea of making the Web Archive data portable. For example, like in a court case, like when the contents of a web page are used as evidence, right, in a legal proceeding, they want to make that data available to the court, right? And maybe it's not data that can be made publicly available, right? It needs to be made available in the legal proceeding, and so making the data portable so that you could give it to somebody on a thumb drive or something, right? And they could open it up and look at it interact with the web content without it needing to talk to a server somewhere else and all that stuff, just like they would with a PDF or a, like another file. So yeah, I guess that's, connecting it to the larger data package discussion. I think that's where being able to show that it hasn't been changed, right? At least since the person who created the package, right? So somebody has to create the package and put the stuff into it and sign it. At that point, if you trust the person who gave you the package and who signed it, then you can trust the content. But like you were saying, Edgar, like anybody could create a package and put fraudulent data into it and sign it and then give it to someone, and it won't prevent that, right? There will always be bad actors, right, that will do stuff like that. But if you do trust the person who signed it, then I think that there are things that you could do to make sure that the package is, complete and hasn't been tampered with. I don't know if that helped or made it more confusing. Probably the latter.
Thanks for linking to the list of use cases, Ed, because that was really helpful to sort of refresh on all the many ways and in different domains these tools could be used. And, I see like scholars and librarians and journalists and artists use this, and totally understanding the value of being able to sign it. But knowing that people from many different backgrounds might be using this, like what is the process of signing it like for someone who maybe is new to that process? Like, is that how integrated is that, or is that how documented is that? That would be something I would be thinking about, even in the context of, say, like I could imagine, like helping students document their web projects that they created. This is new to them. How would they go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know, Ilya, if you want to answer it or not. The thing I was going to say is that this is an ongoing discussion, right, that the Web Recorder project is having. So there's an organization called the New Design Congress who are doing a bunch of user research right now, interviewing people that use web archives currently. You may have seen this already, Laura, but like and we can put a link into the channel if or I can maybe later, but anyway, like they're in the process of interviewing people right now, doing like basically user studies, and because like how to surface in the interface that the signing is happening. So earlier when Ilya was clicking through and archiving the Frictionless website, you may have noticed when it unzipped, he unzipped the waxy, it had the signing data in it. So it had been signed, right, using a private key that was generated by the browser, but it wasn't really clear that had happened in the interface at all, right? And also, like when you open the archive that's been signed, there wasn't any indication that it had been verified, right? Or that, if you were to tamper with it in some way, like how should that surface in the interface? So these are things that haven't really sorted out. In some ways, they're a little bit orthogonal to like the question of the data package itself and how that metadata gets stored, right? Like I think the important thing is that there's a place to put that data and that people agree about it. And then I think then the question is like how do tools use it? But you're right though, like I think it is important to let the interface kind of drive what gets persisted to the what metadata is recorded, right? I think that thinking about it that way, I think is the right way to think about it. So I guess, I think that our own understanding of what this data should look like may change based on the research, so maybe that's a factor to consider when we bring, like if we were to propose an extension to data package, it's possible that it will change, and I guess that's the case with everything, but
I think, I think that as you mentioned, I think that those are sort of kind of separate questions. The first is the more simple one, whether or not there should be a signing standard for data package at all, and what that should look like. And then, of course, how do you verify it, and how do you, and sort of how's a signature created, be kind of the follow-up. And there may be multiple approaches to that. And yeah, I mean, currently the idea is that the signing happens automatically, so that it can be verified. I mean, maybe there should be an option to enable it or disable, but that's kind of more a UX question. But yeah, currently the idea is that it's, that it's created automatically, and then at some point later we hope to have a UI for verifying signatures, but that also requires figuring out how the identity piece fits into this. So there are lots of questions to answer around it, and maybe not all of those should be part of the data package. Certainly, just to kind of understand what should or should not be as part of data package itself, what should be at the waxy level, and what should be more like a tool-based implementation, are all the things that we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, that's where we've been struggling a little bit. Like, how much do we just put into our own specification versus think about like being more general in the data package world? But thanks for listening. We appreciate the attention, and for the interest.
Yeah, thank you, actually. And I'm hoping that once I post this video, maybe we'll generate also discussion inside the community and get a bit more feedback on that.
Okay, great. Yeah. And we could open an issue on the spec, if that would be helpful, or wait for more feedback first before doing that. Either, whatever makes the most sense.
Just a last question. Curious, when you record, you showed recording one page in your browser, but if you want to go to a different page, like in the Frictionless, you update the data package, right? That's being recorded.
Yes, yeah. So it's actually, so we didn't actually show multiple pages, but the system can support browsing to multiple pages, and it stores it in the browser in a different format, and then it exports it as a data package. So yeah, so the system has support for archiving multiple pages. Yeah, and the spec kind of describes the formats that we use. So we use work, and then we also have an index format called CDX, and those are kind of part of the standard web archiving formats that we're trying to document. Well, work is an existing standard. CDX is not yet a standard, but yeah, we're basically packaging these together. Yeah, and that's what comprises the data package.
And if you really want to hear more, there's actually there's a call right after this,
Yes,
a web recorder call where we could share a link if you really want to keep learning more about because we
actually have our own community call coming right up in the next hour. So we could share a link if anyone is interested.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it an open call? Yes, it's a community call, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We can put the link in the.
Oh yeah.
Probably will not be able to attend because I have a meeting in 10 minutes, but
I won't hold it against you.
For sure, I will follow. I want to know more about the project.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll. Yeah. So and our calls are also recorded, so we'll be sharing. And yeah, here
It's in a few minutes, right, Ilya? Or
yes,
is it in an hour? Okay.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah. Lorena just put the.
Oh yes, great.
The call for So that's our upcoming. So feel free to join in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I might
yeah.
join a bit later, but I think I'm joining.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you all for
Okay.
having us.
Thanks
Uh,
again, Ed and Ilya, and sorry there was so little people today. I think that probably moving the hour didn't really work, but it was great to hear from you. And I'm thinking, because I will post a blog about this and the video as well, I'm hoping that this will generate some discussion in the community, and that hopefully this discussion will go on.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. And thanks, Laura, for the links.
Yes, thank you, Lorena, for keeping us all up to date with the links.
Yeah.
All right, bye
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.